The crystal chamber stretched impossibly high above Ambassador Daeho Kang's head. 47 alien species sat in their designated seats, looking down at him like judges ready to deliver a sentence. The Galactic Council had existed for thousands of years before humanity even discovered fire. Now, in the year 2287, they were about to make a decision that would change everything. Daeho stood alone on the speaker's platform. His dark suit felt too tight. His hands wanted to shake, but he kept them still. Behind him, holographic displays showed Earth, humanity's 12 colony worlds, and the fleet they had built over the last 30 years. Ships that had defended against pirates, ships that had rescued stranded vessels, ships that had kept the peace. The council speaker, Valtharis, rose from the central seat. The crystalline being's body reflected light in rainbow patterns. When it spoke, its voice echoed through everyone's mind rather than through the air. Humanity. We have reviewed your history. We have studied your wars. We have witnessed your violence. Daeho wanted to argue. He wanted to remind them that humanity had been peaceful since joining the council 15 years ago. But he knew better. This decision had been made before he even entered the chamber. The council has voted, Valtharis continued. 47 civilizations, one voice. Humanity is too dangerous to participate in military conflicts. You are too aggressive, too quick to violence, too willing to destroy. Therefore, you are hereby banned from all military activities. The words hit Daeho like physical blows. Around the chamber, the alien representatives sat silent. Some looked satisfied. Others looked uncomfortable. The Vexron representative, a massive creature covered in scales and spikes, was actually smiling. What does this mean? Daeho asked, though he already knew. You will decommission 80% of your military fleet within 1 year, Valtharis explained. The remaining ships will be for emergency defense only, and will be monitored by Council observers. Your colonies will be protected by Council security forces. You will pay for this protection through increased trade taxes. Daeho felt his face grow hot. You're making us defenseless. You're forcing us to become vassals. We are ensuring galactic peace, Valtharis replied. Humanity will adjust. Or humanity will leave Council space. The choice is yours, but it wasn't really a choice. Outside Council space, there was only wilderness. Hostile aliens, pirates, worse things. Humanity needed the Council's protection, its trade routes, its technology. Without the Council, humanity would be isolated and vulnerable. Daeho looked around the chamber one more time. He saw the Vexron representative leaning back in satisfaction. He saw the Thornback swarm delegate clicking its mandibles in what might have been laughter. Both species had voted enthusiastically for the ban. Both had been expanding their territories aggressively for decades. Now humanity couldn't stop them. I understand, Daeho said quietly. He didn't bow. He didn't thank them. He simply turned and walked out. On Earth, Director Hana Yoon watched the proceedings through a holographic display. She sat in the command center beneath Seoul, surrounded by screens showing every human ship, every colony, every strategic position. When Valtharis delivered the verdict, Hana's face remained perfectly calm. But her hands clenched into fists. Around her, military officers and government officials sat in shocked silence. Finally, someone spoke. Director, what do we do? Hana didn't answer immediately. She was thinking, calculating, planning. The Council had banned them from war. They had forced decommissioning of the fleet. They had made humanity dependent on alien protection, but they had made one mistake. They had given humanity 1 year. Send a coded message to Ambassador Kang, Hana said. Tell him to come home immediately. Then contact all fleet commanders. I want a complete inventory of every ship, every weapon, every piece of military technology we have. And I want a list of every civilian construction facility in human space. Director, we're supposed to scrap the fleet, another officer said. We will, Hana replied. We'll scrap exactly what they told us to scrap. But they didn't ban us from building cargo haulers. They didn't ban civilian construction. They didn't ban mining operations. Slowly, understanding began to spread through the room. Someone smiled. Then another. Soon even the shocked officers were starting to see the possibility. How long do we have before they come for us? Hana asked. A young intelligence officer named Taemin Choi spoke up. Based on Vexron expansion patterns and Thornback movement, I estimate 15 years before they move on our colonies. Maybe 20 if we're lucky. Then we have 15 years to prepare, Hana said. Get me the best engineers, the best ship designers, the best strategists, and absolute secrecy. The Council will be watching us. They cannot know what we're really doing. 3 weeks later, Deho arrived back on Earth. He looked older than when he had left. The humiliation of standing before the Council, of accepting their judgment, had aged him. But his eyes were still sharp. Hana met him in a secure facility deep underground. "They think they've beaten us," she said, "haven't they?" Deho asked tiredly. "No, they've underestimated us." Hana pulled up a holographic display. It showed the Kuiper Belt, the region of space beyond Neptune filled with ice and rock. "We're going to build our new fleet out here. Hidden in plain sight. We'll tell the Council we're expanding mining operations. We'll register every facility as civilian, and we'll build ships that look like cargo haulers but carry enough firepower to fight a war." Deho studied the plans. "This is insane. If they discover what we're doing, they'll destroy us," Hana finished. "I know, but if we don't do this, they'll destroy us anyway. The Vex Run voted for this ban because they want our colonies. The Thornback Swarm voted for it because they want our resources. The Council won't protect us. They'll issue statements of concern while our people die." Deho was quiet for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "How do we start?" "We start by giving them exactly what they want," Hana said. "We decommission the fleet. We put Council observers on our remaining ships. We pay the protection taxes. We become the perfect, peaceful species they think they've created. And while they're watching us be harmless, we build an armada they'll never see coming." The next day, humanity began dismantling its military fleet. Warships were flown to designated scrapyards. Weapons were removed. Engines were shut down. Council observers watched everything, making sure humanity complied completely. But in the Kuiper Belt, something else was happening. A small construction crew arrived at an unremarkable asteroid. They began drilling. They told any passing ships they were mining for ice and minerals. And deep inside the asteroid, they began building something that would change the galaxy forever. Hana stood in an observation room, watching the construction begin through cameras hidden throughout the site. Beside her, the chief engineer reported that foundations were being laid for the first shipyard. It would take months to complete, years before the first ship could be built. 15 years, Hana whispered to herself. "We have 15 years to build a fleet that can fight the entire galaxy. 15 years to prepare for a war they don't know is coming." In the darkness of the Kuiper Belt, far from prying eyes, humanity's secret began. They had been banned from war. They had been made defenseless. They had been humiliated and controlled, but they had not been defeated. And when the time came, the galaxy would learn that banning humanity from war was the biggest mistake the Council had ever made. The construction crews worked in silence, building the future in secret. Above them, the stars watched, waiting. 5 years had passed since the ban. The galaxy had moved on. Humanity was now known as the peaceful species that built excellent cargo ships and mining equipment. Their vessels hauled goods across Council space. Their engineers helped construct stations and habitats. No one worried about humanity anymore. That was exactly what Hana Yun had planned. In the Oort cloud, far beyond where most ships traveled, a different story was unfolding. Inside hollowed-out asteroids and ice formations, humanity was building the largest secret military fleet in galactic history. Hundreds of construction facilities operated around the clock. Thousands of workers lived in hidden stations, never returning to Earth until their assignments ended. Sora Lim stood in the main construction bay of Facility 7, watching welding torches flash like stars. She was the chief engineer of the shipwright project, and she hadn't slept more than 4 hours in the last 2 days. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy knot. Her coveralls were stained with grease and burn marks. She was 32 years old and responsible for designing weapons systems that could fight alien technology centuries more advanced than Earth's. "Status report," she said into her communicator. "Hull sections complete on the Taguchi," a voice responded. "Ready for weapon installation," Sora smiled. The Taiguchi would be humanity's first true battleship since the ban. Not a converted freighter, not a disguised cargo hauler. A real warship built from scratch with technology that would surprise the galaxy. She had spent the last 5 years studying captured alien technology, reverse engineering Council systems, and improving everything. The result was the Phantom Drive, a stealth system that made human ships nearly invisible to standard sensors. It wasn't perfect, but it would give them the element of surprise they needed. Begin installation, Sora ordered, and send my specifications for the next 12 ships to Facilities 3 and 5. Across the solar system, in a converted mining station near Jupiter, former fighter pilot Jiho Park prepared for another cargo run. His ship, the Morning Star, looked like any other civilian freighter. Long hull, large cargo base, standard engines. But hidden behind false bulkheads were weapon systems that could destroy a military cruiser. Jiho was 35 years old, thin and tired-looking. He had once been one of humanity's best pilots, flying combat missions against pirates and defending colony ships. Now he pretended to haul cargo while actually transporting weapons and equipment to the secret facilities. "Morning Star, you're cleared for departure," the station controller said. "Safe travels to Kepler 442b. "Acknowledged," Jiho replied. He didn't mention that he would be making a stop at an unmarked location first. 3 days into the journey, Jiho dropped out of faster-than-light travel at his real destination, an asteroid field that looked empty on all official maps. He sent the coded signal. Lights flickered on across what appeared to be a natural rock formation. A hangar bay opened, and Jiho guided his ship inside. "Delivery complete," he reported. 300 pulse cannon arrays as requested. But as he prepared to leave, an emergency message came through. "Colony distress signal. Vex run attack on Kepler 442b. The agricultural colony he was supposed to be traveling to was under assault." Jiho immediately changed course, pushing his engines to maximum. He arrived 6 hours later to find devastation. 3 Vex-run warships orbited the planet, bombarding the surface. Colony habitats were burning. Escape pods drifted in space, some destroyed, some still broadcasting distress signals. Jiho's hands gripped the controls. His weapon systems were active. He could engage. 3 ships. He might even win. But his orders were clear: maintain the illusion. The galaxy couldn't know humanity had military capabilities. "Not yet, please, someone help us," a voice cried over the emergency channel. "They're killing everyone. Where's the council? Where's the protection we paid for?" Jiho recognized the voice. His brother's wife. She and their 2 children had moved to Kepler 442b 3 years ago to start a farm. "Morning Star, what are you doing?" The message came from Minho Ryu, the intelligence coordinator back on Earth. "Your orders are to observe only." "They're murdering colonists," Jiho said, his voice shaking. "My family is down there." "I know," Minho replied. "And I'm sorry. But if you engage, you reveal everything. 5 years of work. The entire project. Billions of lives depending on secrecy. You cannot engage." Jiho watched through his sensors as another habitat exploded. The distress signals were getting weaker. Then they stopped. All of them, including his brother's wife. "Morning Star, acknowledge your orders," Minho said. Jiho said nothing. He simply turned his ship around and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind him, the Vex-run ships finished their attack and left. 12,000 colonists dead. The Council would issue a statement of concern. Nothing more. 2 weeks later, Jiho arrived back on Earth. He didn't file a report. He went straight to Hana Yun's office and demanded entry. "How many more?" he shouted when he saw her. "How many more of our people have to die while we hide?" Hana looked older than she had 5 years ago. Thinner, more tired. "As many as it takes," she said quietly. "That's not good enough." "It has to be," Hana replied. "Every person who dies now is tragic. I know that. I carry their names with me. But if we reveal ourselves too early, we don't just lose those people. We lose everyone. Earth, all our colonies, everything. You're asking me to watch people die?" "Yes," Hana said. "I'm asking you to be a soldier, to make the hard choice, to sacrifice the few for the many. I hate it too, Jiho, but we get one chance, one moment when we can reveal our strength. If we do it too early, the entire galaxy comes down on us before we're ready. If we wait, we have a chance to survive," Jiho wanted to argue, wanted to scream. But he knew she was right. He had been a soldier long enough to understand strategy. Sometimes you had to let battles be lost to win the war. "How much longer?" he asked. 10 more years. Maybe less if the Vex run moved faster than expected. Minho's intelligence network shows they're planning something big. When it comes, we'll be ready." Jiho left without another word. He returned to his ship and continued his cargo runs. But something had changed in him. The anger remained cold and sharp, waiting. In the Oort cloud, the construction continued. Sora Lim activated the completed Taigoki for the first time. The massive ship systems hummed to life, power flowing through every deck. The phantom drive engaged, and on sensors the battleship simply disappeared. "Perfect," Sora whispered. Around her, engineers cheered. They had done it. They had built a warship invisible to the galaxy. The silent armada grew. 12 dreadnoughts now, their hulls complete. 40 cruisers in various stages of construction. 200 destroyers. 1,000 fighter craft, all hidden, all waiting. Minho Ryu coordinated the intelligence network from a facility on Earth. He had spent 5 years building relationships with oppressed species throughout the galaxy. Civilizations that had been conquered by the Vex Run. Species that were exploited by the Council's economic policies. They were angry, desperate, ready to fight. "When the time comes," Minho told them, "humanity will help you. We will provide weapons, technology support, but you must wait for our signal." They agreed, not because they trusted humanity completely, but because they had no other choice. The Council had failed them. Only humanity was willing to challenge the established order. Back in the Oort cloud, Sora stood on the observation deck of the main facility. Through the transparent aluminum, she could see dozens of ships under construction. The lights of welding torches flickered like distant stars. This was humanity's future. Hidden in darkness, growing stronger every day. "Let them think we're harmless," she said to herself. "Let them believe their ban worked. When they finally see what we've built, it will be too late." The silent armada waited in the darkness, preparing for a war the galaxy didn't know was coming. 10 years after the ban, the galaxy was changing. The Vex-Run Empire had grown bold. They had conquered 12 minor civilizations in the last 3 years. Each time, the Council had issued statements of concern. Each time, they had done nothing. The pattern was becoming clear to anyone paying attention. The Council was broken. Minho Ryu sat in his intelligence center, reviewing reports from hundreds of sources across the galaxy. He was 40 years old now, his hair starting to show gray at the temples. He had built the most sophisticated spy network humanity had ever created, with agents and informants on dozens of worlds, and what they were reporting made his blood run cold. "Get Director Yoon," he said to his assistant. Immediately. 20 minutes later, Hana appeared on his holographic display. She was in a meeting with ship commanders in the Oort cloud, but she had dropped everything to respond. "What is it?" "The Vex-Run are planning to attack Earth," Minho said. "Within 3 months. And they're not coming alone. They've formed an alliance with the Thornback Swarm." Hana's face went pale. "You're certain?" "I have documentation. Communication intercepts. 3 separate sources confirming the same information. They're going to hit us during the Council's Millennium Summit, when all attention is focused on the celebrations." "Why now?" Hana asked. "Because we're defenseless. Because the Council won't stop them. And because—" Minho paused, his face hardening. "Because the Council knows about it." "What?" Minho displayed files on the screen. "I have evidence that 5 Council members, including Representative Kraven, have been receiving payments from the Vex Run for the last 2 years. They helped orchestrate the ban on humanity. Now they're ensuring the Council won't intervene when the attack comes. We'll be exterminated. Our colonies will be taken and the Council will express regret and move on." Hana was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice steady. "Call a meeting. Everyone, Daeho, Doyun, Sora, Jiho, everyone who matters. We meet in 12 hours. The meeting took place in a secure bunker beneath the Korean peninsula, the same place where Hana had first outlined the plan 10 years ago. But the group gathered there had changed. They were older, harder, shaped by a decade of secret preparation. Daeho Kang was 75 now, his hair completely white. But his mind was still sharp. He listened to Minho's report without interruption. Doyun-oh, Hana's strategic advisor and former special operations commander, studied the tactical data with cold calculation. He was a big man, quiet and dangerous. Sora Lim looked exhausted but determined. 10 years of endless work had taken their toll. Jiho Park stood near the back, his face unreadable. He had not forgotten Kepler 442b. "We're not ready," Sora said. "We have the ships, but not enough crew trained on all the systems. We need another year at least." "We don't have another year," Hana replied. "We have 3 months. Can we fight with what we have?" "Fight, yes," Sora said. "Win? That depends on how many ships they bring." "Intelligence suggests a primary fleet of 300 Vex-Run warships," Minho said. plus unknown numbers of Thornback bioships. Everyone absorbed that number. 300 ships. Even with the silent armada fully deployed, they would be outnumbered. Then we can't fight them head-on, Doyun said. Everyone turned to look at him. We can't match their numbers, but we can use what they think they know against them. They believe we're defenseless. Let them keep believing that until it's too late. What are you suggesting? Daeho asked. Doyun smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. We let them think they've won. Over the next hour, Doyun outlined a plan that was audacious, dangerous, and their only real chance at survival. It relied on deception, perfect timing, and the enemy's arrogance. If it worked, humanity would survive. If it failed, Earth would burn. We need to begin immediately, Hana said when Doyun finished. Daeho, I need you to start the panic. Ambassador Kang returned to Council Space and began a series of increasingly desperate diplomatic efforts. He begged for protection. He offered economic concessions. He even suggested humanity would surrender colonial claims if the Council would guarantee Earth's safety. The Council deliberated. They formed committees. They scheduled debates. They did nothing. Meanwhile, Yoonji Song received her orders. She was a civilian freighter captain, 50 years old, who had been running cargo routes for 30 years. She thought she knew every route in human space. But when the encrypted message came through, she learned there was much she didn't know. Captain Song, the message read, report to Earth immediately for emergency evacuation coordination. When she arrived, she met with Hana Yoon personally. There's going to be an attack, Hana explained. We need to evacuate civilians from exposed colonies. You and 300 other captains have been selected to lead the evacuation. 300, Yoonji asked. We don't have 300 ships for evacuation. You do, Hana said. They've been waiting in reserve. Registered as cargo haulers. You'll take them to designated safe zones. Yoonji looked at the routes she was given. They didn't lead to Council Space or protected areas. They led to the Oort Cloud, to unmarked coordinates. Director, Yoonji said slowly, what exactly am I evacuating people to? Hana smiled. Safety, but also, Captain Song, you're going to be part of something historic. Follow your orders exactly. And when the time comes, you'll understand. Across human space, the evacuation began. It looked panicked and desperate. Ships loaded with civilians fled toward the outer system. News broadcasts showed crowds at spaceports. Diplomatic channels carried frantic messages. To outside observers, humanity was falling apart in fear. The Vex Run watched with satisfaction. Their spies reported chaos, fear, complete lack of military preparation. They're running like prey animals, War Master Kextol told his commanders. This will be easier than expected. In the Oort Cloud, Jiho Park stood on the bridge of the Taeguki. Around him, crew members checked weapon systems, engine status, sensor arrays. They had trained for this moment for 10 years. Some were former military. Others were civilians who had volunteered. All of them knew what was at stake. Fleet status? Jiho asked. All ships report ready, his tactical officer replied. The silent armada is fully deployed. We're maintaining phantom drive protocols. Enemy sensors show nothing. Jiho looked at the tactical display. 1,200 human ships, hidden from the galaxy. Waiting. How long until the enemy arrives? He asked. 48 hours, Jiho nodded. He opened a channel to all ships. This is Commander Park. In 2 days, the Vex Run fleet will enter our space. They think we're helpless. They think the Council will protect them. They're wrong on both counts. We've waited 10 years for this. We've prepared. We've sacrificed. Now we fight, not because we love war, but because we love our people, our families, our freedom. Show them what humanity can do when we're pushed too far. Park out. On Earth, Hana Yoon stood in the command center watching the approaching enemy fleet on long-range sensors. They were coming exactly as predicted. Arrogant, confident, unprepared. Beside her, Doyun studied the tactical situation. It's going to be close, he said. It always was, Hana replied. The Vex Run fleet jumped into human space right on schedule. 300 warships, massive and powerful. They formed up in attack formation, ready to begin the bombardment of Earth. War Master Kextol broadcast on all channels. Humanity, your time is over. Surrender your worlds and you will be permitted to exist as labor for the Empire. Resist and be exterminated. Hana looked at the transmission. She thought about the 10 years of preparation, the sacrifices, the people who had died while they built their strength in secret. She pressed a single button. Across the Oort cloud, running lights illuminated on 1,000 ships. Engines powered up. Weapons armed. The silent armada came to life. Hana spoke into her communicator, her voice carrying to every human ship in the solar system. All vessels, this is Fleet Command. You are weapons-free. Show them what we built. The war had begun. The Vexron fleet moved toward Earth like a hammer ready to fall. Their sensors showed only what they expected to see. A few decommissioned human warships floating dead in space, civilian freighters fleeing in panic, and a planet full of helpless targets. They didn't see the Taguki and its battle group dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly behind their formation. Target lock confirmed, Jiho's tactical officer reported. All weapons ready. Jiho looked at the display showing 300 enemy ships. He thought about his brother's family dying at Kepler 442b, about 10 years of waiting, about everyone who had sacrificed to make this moment possible. Fire, he said. Magnetic accelerator cannons, humanity's perfected kinetic weapons, opened fire. Solid projectiles moving at tremendous speed ripped through the Vexron rearguard before they could react. 20 ships exploded in the first 5 seconds. The element of surprise was total. What just hit us? War Master Kextel screamed. Where did those ships come from? His sensors weren't showing anything. The human ships were there, firing continuously. But the phantom drive systems made them flicker in and out of targeting computers like ghosts. Then the rest of the silent armada revealed itself. All across the solar system, human warships dropped their stealth and opened fire. 12 dreadnoughts, 40 cruisers, 200 destroyers, 1,000 fighters, ships that shouldn't exist, ships the Council had banned, ships that had been built in secret for 10 years. On Council Prime, the emergency session erupted in chaos. Representatives who had been celebrating the Millennium Summit suddenly watched in horror as combat footage streamed in from human space. Impossible, shrieked Veltheris. We watched them scrap their fleet. We had observers. Ambassador Deho Kang stood slowly. He was old, but his voice carried across the chamber. You watched us scrap our old fleet. You banned us from war. You didn't ban us from building cargo haulers. You didn't ban civilian construction. You thought you could make us defenseless. He smiled coldly. You were wrong. Back in human space, the battle raged. The Vexron, despite their initial losses, were experienced warriors. They regrouped quickly, bringing their superior numbers to bear. But they found themselves fighting an enemy unlike anything they had faced before. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable. Their weapons hit harder than expected. And their tactics were aggressive, creative, and unpredictable. Yoonji Song commanded a squadron of converted freighters. On paper, they were civilian cargo ships. In reality, they carried enough weapons to challenge light cruisers. She led her squadron in a daring maneuver, using the bulk of a decommissioned station as cover while firing precision shots at enemy engine sections. Their armor's thick, her weapons officer reported, but their engines are vulnerable. Then we hit the engines, Yoonji replied. All ships focus fire on propulsion systems. Make them sitting targets. 3 Vexron cruisers found themselves unable to maneuver, drifting helplessly as human destroyers closed in for the kill. On Earth, Doyano coordinated the overall strategy from the command center. Hundreds of displays showed the battle from every angle. He had spent 10 years studying Vexron tactics, learning their patterns, finding their weaknesses. Their command ship is holding back, he told Hana. Kextul is directing the battle from a safe distance. If we can take him out, their coordination will collapse. The Taiguchi is our fastest battleship, Hana said. Send Jiho after him. The order came through and Jiho smiled grimly. Helm, plot an intercept course for the Vexron flagship. Engineering, I need every bit of speed you can give me. The Taiguchi accelerated, pushing its engines past recommended limits. Jiho had been a fighter pilot. He knew how to push a ship, how to find that edge between maximum performance and catastrophic failure. They're launching fighters to intercept us, his tactical officer warned. Launch ours, Jiho ordered, and keep firing the main guns. I want that flagship to know we're coming. Human fighters swarmed out to meet the Vexron interceptors. The dogfight was brutal and fast. Human pilots had trained in secret for years, flying modified civilian ships that handled like military craft. The Vexron fighters were tough, but they weren't prepared for human aggression. One human pilot, barely 20 years old, rammed her damaged fighter into a Vexron heavy fighter, destroying both. Her last transmission was simple. for Earth. The battle reached its peak as the third day began. Both sides had taken heavy losses. The Vexrun still had numerical superiority, but human tactics had evened the odds. Then the situation changed. Multiple contacts jumping in, the sensor officer reported. Bioship signatures. It's the Thornback swarm. Hundreds of organic vessels, grown rather than built, emerged from faster-than-light travel. They looked like massive insects, covered in natural armor and armed with biological weapons. The swarm had arrived to support their Vexrun allies. We're being flanked, Doyen said, his voice tight. This was the moment he had feared. A two-front battle against overwhelming numbers. But Hana smiled. Activate the defense grid. Throughout the solar system, thousands of objects that had been dismissed as debris suddenly came to life. Automated defense platforms disguised as broken satellites and destroyed ship sections powered up simultaneously. They had been positioned over the last 10 years waiting for this exact moment. The platforms opened fire. Overlapping fields of projectiles and energy weapons filled space. The Thornback swarm flew directly into the trap. Dozens of bioships exploded. The rest scattered, their formation broken. Now, Hana ordered, while they're confused. Hit them with everything. The human fleet pressed the attack. The Taiguchi finally reached the Vexrun flagship. Kextel's ship was massive, 3 times the size of Jiho's battleship, but size wasn't everything. Target their bridge, Jiho ordered. Magnetic accelerators, maximum power. The Taiguchi's main guns fired. Solid projectiles moving at incredible speed punched through the flagship's armor. The bridge section exploded. Secondary detonations rippled through the ship. Their command ship is down, the tactical officer reported. Enemy formation is breaking apart. Without Kextel's leadership, the Vexrun fleet lost coordination. Individual ships fought bravely, but they were no longer working together. Human ships exploited the confusion, picking off isolated enemies. The Thornback swarm, seeing their allies failing and facing the unexpected defense grid, made a decision. They retreated, jumping to faster-than-light speed and abandoning the Vexrun to their fate. Enemy fleet is requesting parley, communications reported. Jiho looked at the tactical display. The battle was won, but the cost had been high. 20 human ships destroyed, hundreds of crew dead, thousands wounded. He thought about executing the remaining Vexrun, about revenge for Kepler 442b. But he remembered Hana's words from years ago. We're not monsters. We're survivors. Accept their surrender, Jiho said. All ships cease fire. Across the battlefield, human warships stopped shooting. The surviving Vexrun ships powered down their weapons. The battle was over. Hana stood in the command center watching the results come in. Earth remained, bloodied but unbroken. The colonies were safe. Humanity had survived. Send a message to the council, she said. Tell them humanity is still here, and tell them we're not asking permission anymore. The galaxy watched in shock as the footage spread. Humanity, the species that had been banned from war, had just defeated the Vexrun Empire. The council that had promised protection had done nothing. But humanity had protected itself. Dehokang addressed the council one final time. You told us we were too violent for war. You were wrong. We're not too violent. We're too good at it. You tried to make us defenseless. Instead, you taught us that we can only rely on ourselves. He paused, looking at each representative in turn. You wanted peace? You should have included us as equals, not banned us like children. Now the Vexrun are broken. The swarm has fled, and humanity stands. Remember this moment. Remember that we survived despite you, not because of you. The council chamber was silent. They had nothing to say. Earth had proven something the galaxy would never forget. Humanity could not be erased. They had been banned from war, but they had built their fleet in secret. They had been made defenseless, but they had found strength. They had been pushed to the edge of extinction, but they had fought back and they had won. 6 months after the battle, the galaxy looked very different. The Vexrun Empire had collapsed. Their conquered territories declared independence with help from Minho Ryu's alliance network. The Thornback swarm had disappeared into deep space, their intentions unknown. And the Galactic Council faced the worst crisis in its 1,000-year history. Nobody trusted them anymore. The Council demanded humanity answer for illegal militarization and violation of Council law. They scheduled a formal hearing, expecting humanity to apologize and accept punishment. They were about to learn how much had changed. Ambassador Daeho Kang arrived at Council Prime for the final time. He was 76 years old now, walking with a cane, his body frail. But when he stood before the council, his voice was strong. "You charge us with illegal militarization," Daeho said. "We plead guilty. You charge us with violating council law. We plead guilty to that too." The council representatives looked satisfied. Finally, humanity would accept responsibility. "But I have a question for you," Daeho continued. "What law allows you to make a species defenseless? What law says you can force people to rely on protection you never intended to provide? What law makes it illegal to survive?" "The council's authority," Veltharis began. "The council's authority," Daeho interrupted, "comes from the consent of its members. We joined willingly. We followed your rules. And you betrayed us. You took bribes from the Vex Run. You planned to let us be exterminated. 5 of your members are under investigation right now for corruption." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some representatives tried to deny it. Others demanded proof. Minoru provided documents, recordings, financial transactions. The evidence was overwhelming. Representative Craven tried to flee. He was arrested before he reached his ship. "You created a law to keep us defenseless," Daeho said into the chaos. "We broke it to stay alive. History will judge which of us was in the right." He turned and walked out. He would never return to Council Prime. On Earth, changes were happening fast. Hana Yun announced her retirement. She had accomplished what she set out to do: save humanity. Now it was time for others to lead. She passed command of the fleet to Jiho Park. "You sure about this?" Jiho asked when she told him. "I'm a pilot, not an admiral." "You're a leader," Hana replied. "You know how to fight. More importantly, you know why we fight. The fleet needs someone who understands that strength without purpose is just violence." Jiho accepted the position. His first act was to promote Yoonji Song to captain of one of the new dreadnoughts. The civilian freighter captain who had led evacuation ships during the battle had proven herself a tactical genius. Sora Lim became humanity's chief technology advisor. Other species wanted access to phantom drive technology, magnetic accelerator weapons, and automated defense systems. Sora decided what to share and what to keep secret. "We help our friends," she told the engineering teams, "but we don't give away everything. Trust is earned, not bought." The council tried to continue as if nothing had changed. They issued new regulations. They formed committees. They pretended they still had absolute authority. But 7 member civilizations, including humanity, had other ideas. They formed the Free Worlds Coalition, a block of species demanding equal representation, transparent government, and an end to corruption. They had a simple message: reform or we leave. The council couldn't afford to lose 7 members. The economic impact alone would be devastating. They had no choice but to negotiate. The negotiations took 3 months. The old guard, led by Veltharis, resisted every change. But the younger representatives, the ones who had watched humanity fight alone while the council did nothing, supported reform. Finally, Veltharis resigned. 3 other senior representatives joined him. New elections were called. The council structure was rebuilt from the ground up. The new charter included a critical clause: no civilization may be disarmed without cause. All species have the right to self-defense. Not everyone on Earth was happy with the outcome. A group of politicians and military officers argued that humanity should withdraw from galactic politics completely, become an isolated fortress, trust no one. Jiho Park addressed this faction in a speech that would be remembered for generations. "Our ancestors looked at the stars and dreamed," he said. "They dreamed of what was out there, of who we might meet, of what we might become. We found aliens. We found politics and betrayal. But we also found friends among the oppressed. We found civilizations worth protecting." He paused, looking out at the crowd. "If we isolate now, we become what they accused us of being: selfish, violent, afraid. But if we stay engaged, if we use our strength to protect those who can't protect themselves, we become something better. We become the protectors we wish the council had been." The vote was close, but humanity chose to remain part of the galaxy. Daeho Kang died peacefully in his sleep 1 year after the battle. He was 77. His funeral was attended by representatives from 43 civilizations. Former enemies stood alongside human veterans. The Vex Run's new democratic government sent an official apology and a memorial wreath. His last words to Yoonji Song: who had been elected as Earth's new ambassador, were simple. Tell them we were never the monsters they feared. Tell them we were just people who refused to die quietly. 5 years after the battle, humanity's role in the galaxy had evolved completely. The Silent Armada was now the core of the Free World's Coalition Defense Force. Human ships patrolled borders, responded to distress calls, and kept the peace. Soralim's technology had been adapted across allied species. Medical advances, improved engines, better agricultural systems. The quality of life for billions of people had improved. Humanity wasn't just sharing weapons. They were sharing knowledge. Minho Ryu's intelligence networks had transformed into diplomatic corps. Instead of gathering secrets, they built bridges between civilizations. The age of conquest was giving way to an age of cooperation. But Jiho Park knew peace was fragile. In his quarters aboard the Taeguki, now the flagship of the Coalition fleet, he studied troubling reports. Strange signals from beyond charted space, unidentified ships at the edge of explored territory. And the Thornback Swarm's retreat had been too organized, too strategic. "They're coming back," Jiho told Hana during one of her rare visits. "The swarm, and they're bringing something worse. Are we ready?" Hana asked. "We're stronger than we were," Jiho replied. "But ready? I don't know if anyone can be ready for what's coming." He recorded a message for future generations. "We won our right to exist. We proved we could fight and win. But the galaxy is vast. We've only explored a fraction of it. Stay vigilant. Stay ready. And remember, we built our fleet in secret once. If we must, we can do it again." On Earth, in the old demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, a monument was unveiled. It bore the names of everyone who had died defending humanity. From the first contact wars to the Battle of Seoul, 50,000 names carved in stone. At its base, a simple inscription: "They banned us from war. We built our fleet in secret. We fought not because we loved violence, but because we loved our freedom. May those who come after us never forget, peace must be strong enough to defend itself." The ceremony was attended by thousands. Veterans who had fought in the secret shipyards. Civilians who had kept the secret for 10 years. Children who would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was respected, not dismissed. Yoonji Song gave the dedication speech. "We were told we were too dangerous, too violent, too aggressive. They were wrong. We weren't too anything. We were simply unwilling to accept extinction. We chose to survive. And in surviving, we changed the galaxy." In orbit above Earth, the Taeguki and 100 other ships flew in formation. Their running lights painted patterns against the darkness of space. A reminder to everyone watching that humanity was here to stay. The galaxy had learned its lesson. You could ban humanity from war, but you couldn't make them helpless. You could try to control them, but you couldn't break their will. You could threaten them, but you couldn't make them surrender. Humanity had proven something essential. They would not be erased. They would not go quietly. They would not ask permission to survive. They had been pushed to the edge. They had been betrayed by those who promised protection. They had been alone against impossible odds, and they had won. Not because they were violent, not because they loved war, but because they loved their people, their freedom, and their future more than they feared the galaxy's judgment. The stars watched as humanity took its place among them, no longer as supplicants, no longer as the new species that needed guidance, but as equals, as warriors, as survivors. And in the darkness beyond known space, something else watched too, waiting, planning. The Thornback Swarm had learned from their defeat. They would return stronger, better prepared, but so would humanity. They had built their fleet in secret once. They had surprised the galaxy once, and if they needed to do it again, they would, because that was what humanity did. They adapted. They prepared. They survived. The message was clear to anyone watching. Humanity was here. And they would never again be defenseless.